This is Review Ed episode 13, recorded on January 27th, 2012. Hidden Bombs. This episode of Review Ed is brought to you by Acceptly, college prep done right. Increase your chances of getting into the college of your dreams by 80% or more. Visit acceptly.com and follow them on Twitter @acceptly. And by Einstein, the social learning network. Einstein is the social learning network for higher education and lifelong learners. Einstein enables anyone to create an online learning community for resource sharing, collaboration, and discussion. Visit einstein.com and follow them on Twitter @EinsteinKnows. Hi everyone and welcome. This is Review Ed episode 13 with my co-host Christopher Dawson, contributing editor at ZDNet and also vice president of business development over at wiziq.com. Chris, as always, I'm very happy to be joined with you and sort of combine forces and make it through Review Ed this week. For this first For this first segment, Christopher interviewed Steve Hargadon and Richard Byrne of Classroom 2.0. They are coming out on Monday, so January 30th, with their new book for Classroom 2.0, and Christopher is the editor of this book, so I thought who'd be better to make an interview segment with the two than him. And Chris, what were your takeaways from your talk?
So, the book itself is going to be largely teacher-generated content, and which is great. I think we can be talking heads all we want, and obviously, Rick has his presence on Free Tech for Teachers, which is outstanding, and is a really cool blog with a lot of great information.
Very popular blog, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Steve has, of course, established himself on Classroom 2.0. Richard has published a number of ebooks, just done it for free, and as he pointed out during the interview, the free ebooks have actually had far more staying power than most of his blog posts, no matter how great his posts happen to be. So the hope is that we can get a lot of teachers, in fact, to contribute to this book. Contributions open up on Monday, as you mentioned, and not only are they doing a book combining the best of these contributions, but they're creating a space on Scribd to sort of host all of the missions and give people a platform, again, for a little more staying power with their work than a lot of the kinds of things that we all tend to contribute and toss out on the web. So I think that it's a great effort. I think the other piece that's important, and Steve touched on this during the interview, the other piece that's particularly important is that oftentimes we get, we have a sort of echo chamber here, and we all talk to each other, and we all sort of have a sense of what Classroom 2.0 should be. But oftentimes administrators, perhaps school committee members, policymakers, decision makers, they don't get this same bit of information. And when something goes into a printed format, an actual book or ebook that people can read on a Kindle, that's distributed through a larger platform than any book you put on your website, for example, suddenly then that is something that is really useful to people who may not otherwise have access to this sort of information. So, I think it's a great opportunity to spread this around a little bit more. I'm thrilled to be part of the efforts, and my role as editor means I get to read a whole lot of good stuff, and hopefully we'll have some chances to share some individual articles here on Review Ed, because there's a lot of teachers, 125,000 members now almost of Steve's various web properties, his Web 2.0 labs as he calls them, and it's a pretty big audience to hopefully be making contributions here.
Absolutely. So them both as co-authors, and I mean Richard on his blog individually covers a lot of different topics, and also what Steve does with his webinars. will it be the same in the book, that they try to cover as many questions or teacher contributions as possible, so ranging from, I think, technology, social media, best practices, or do they want to concentrate on something in particular in this book?
Well, since it is primarily teacher-generated, I think the goal is just see what comes in. And I expect, again, given the varied audiences they have, I think we're going to see a lot of varied submissions. So kind of my role in this editor is to kind of sort things out and have to be into broad categories. So we expect that we'll see chapters, within the books, within the that ultimately leads to some sections, maybe a how-to section, a social media section, any number of sort of related tools that can be used in the classroom. I think we may also have kind of an sysadmin sort of section, as we have people talking about their work with learning management systems and whatever else. So we'll see what comes in, but the goal is to have it organized into rough sections of rough sets of interests.
As you said, you are, your work as the editor will then be to develop the leading or the main ideas for each chapter or section. So, as you mentioned already, from Monday on, teachers working in public education, but also online. So basically, educators from various different backgrounds are asked for their pieces, their submissions, everything that is of interest for them, concerns them, or what they want to share. Should they address this, should they contact you, Chris, or Steve and Richard directly?
If they go to classroom2.0.com starting Monday morning, then there's a very prominent link, or there will be a very prominent link. Hopefully things are going to get emailed to me, but it'll be, I think it's book@no.com. But all guidelines for submission are there. The licensing requirements are there. We want these to be licensed Creative Commons, and but yet people do need to know that if they're submitting to the site and to the effort, then their works may be published. They're going to be out on the web and all available, and I'll do some standard formatting, cleanup, and go back and forth with authors as needed to make sure that everything is as it should be. But as I said, we will pick sort of the best of the best, that are thematically what they should be, and those will be published. And we're looking for ways to provide authors with some compensation, maybe an affiliate sales program, or do something interesting there. But that's the big deal. So classroom2.0.com, and they just need to they'll see a very prominent link to go ahead and do the submissions along with all the guidelines.
Yeah, we will definitely also put the link in the show notes and the blog article, of course. That's an awesome idea to collect pieces from teachers or from educators, let's call it. And last question from my side, how do they intend to publish? Is it platform agnostic? They want to be everywhere, as this sort of relates with our third segment of Review Ed Today, when we talk with Ed Bott about the Apple announcement and the iBook author tool.
I think it's safe to say I will not be producing this in iBook author. We want this to be widely available, both in print and through various e-reader platforms. We're even giving some thought to an app, a native app that would, something comes out of some Adobe cool publishing products. So, but anyway, it goes. It's going to be open and easy, and So yeah, everything will live to begin with on Scribd, and as the volume of submissions increases, people will be able to check out the individual articles, download them, use them as the licenses specify. Authors have the ability to choose which Creative Commons license they would like, and then beyond that, the book itself, yeah, it's going to be hopefully it'll be sitting on Amazon and Barnes Noble and on shelves elsewhere. So we'll see what happens. It'll be self-published to start with, but who knows? Maybe a big publisher will pick it up. We'll see.
Why not? I mean,
that's right. Aim for the stars, right?
Yeah, the people working on it have established themselves and built up their reputation. So why not? I think publishers are and will have to listen to that and aim for the stars, definitely. But I think it's not so unrealistic.
I think so.
Somebody will make an offer, hopefully attractive offer.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, so the best of success for you three and everybody else included with the book.
Yeah, hopefully a couple $100, or many authors and educators. I hope so.
I think so. That's a wide audience Classroom 2.0 has already, and maybe we can do our little part and guiding some more people toward the project.
That's right.
Let's take a moment and thank our sponsor, Acceptly, college prep done right. Acceptly helps you to increase your chances of getting into your dream college with expert guidance. No more guessing what to do when, and all the preparation tools and resources you need in one place. And the best of all, it's 100% free. So sign up at acceptly.com and follow them on Twitter at Acceptly to start preparing to get into the college of your dreams. We thank them for their support of Review Ed this week. In our second segment, we talk with Gagan Biyani, co-founder at Udemy, and Tim Parks, the director of the faculty project. Udemy found colleges and universities, specifically individual professors, creating new courses for the Udemy platform. All of those courses are freely available. You have videos, you have additional materials. So it's really like attending a college course, just that you or everybody interested takes this course online. So with us are Gagan Biyani, the co-founder of Udemy, or one of the co-founders of Udemy, and also Tim Parks. He is the director of the faculty project, and of course that is also like already our subject, the subject of our talk today, as Udemy had some pretty big news to announce this morning. And giving you a little bit of an introduction to Udemy, I mean, we covered them on EduQuest already and sort of followed them on their way to success. I would say at the beginning Udemy was probably due to the geographical and also from the mindset known to many people as the place where you can, yes, basically learn anything, but a lot around technology and also maybe social media courses. However, we shouldn't forget that your first endeavor in the world of academia, so Udemy Academic, already at that time was very popular amongst users, but it was, yeah, I would describe more of a curation project, maybe. So as you took content available for free from the big colleges and universities and also have these courses on Udemy. But with the faculty project, you now went on to the next step and made one step further. And maybe Tim or Gagan, Tell us a little bit more about what the faculty project involves, and why is it something really new and exciting for the space of learning and learning on the internet.
Absolutely. First of all, it's great talking with both of you, and I'm excited to introduce today's project, which is the faculty project. Udemy is really excited about working directly with professors from top institutions around the world. And basically what we're doing is we're creating an open platform where any professor can come online and teach their course not only to 50 students, which they can usually do in their own classroom, but now to thousands and tens of thousands of students. And these courses are made for online. They're using online video, PowerPoint, PDF files, just like you've seen on other courses on Udemy. But here, we're empowering the professors to do it on their own, and now they're having the reach that they could only imagine of beforehand. So we're really excited about the quality of what we're getting, but really unlocking some amazing experts, award-winning teachers from the greatest institutions like Stanford, Dartmouth, USC, Northwestern, and more. And we're excited to get more professors, and we really believe that we can have thousands of courses up, done by the professors themselves, hopefully in the next year.
Chris, do you have a question for the guys, maybe?
I do, yes. So, how interactive is this? I mean, is it strictly I mean, it's obviously an asynchronous course, but can these students reach out to the professors in some way? Is it really meant to be sort of a, this is the course and here's the content?
Actually, so right now we're in the organic creation phase of the project. So what's happening is the professors themselves over the course of the first semester are creating the courses, and as always with a Udemy course, we're community-based and we have a discussion board where people can interact, exchange ideas, ask questions of the instructors. And already one of our instructors has already posted sort of a discussion and introduction to his course. If you see that Economics of Energy and the Environment taught by Ben Ho out of Vassar, he's really excited to engage and get feedback from the users while he's creating the course. So he hopes to be able to address some of the questions in future lectures. And then at the end of the sequence of the semester, we will have an asynchronous course. But for now, there is an excitement interaction that's going to be going on within the community and the instructors.
Nice. Now, are these courses kind of abstracted from things they're already teaching at their respective universities, or is this something they developed just for Udemy?
Well, they're developing them just for Udemy. I think that professors have topics that they like to talk about. They have courses they maybe don't get to teach sometimes, or they're taking the content that they already have, whether those are already presentations in PowerPoint and then elaborating them on. I think that it's a mix, but there's a lot of creativity, and the content is being driven by the professors.
Nice. That's
great.
I
think this is actually the exciting point. So that these institutions are now, from their side, ready and also willing to create new and fresh content really for an internet platform, whereas their freely available courses prior to that, I think, yes, they uploaded them to the internet, like it was also available on the internet, but it was maybe not their first premise. They just took it with it as this whole thing was developing. And well, for me it would be interesting. So Udemy, having you sort of or having followed you over the years, we can say now, it feels that the technology is definitely ready, and Udemy itself is getting really established. So interesting for me would be to hear about the expectations. Is it for the professors or for the colleges and universities involved a question of critical mass? Do they want to see how many students via Udemy actually adopt the courses? And I also heard the sort of opinion that it was also challenging to get on Udemy's side a critical mass of professors, or was it actually not that difficult to reach out and to win them over that they create content only for Udemy?
Well, the idea here is obviously that the professors are really excited about sharing knowledge with as many people as possible. These are people who dedicated their lives to teaching, and now using the power of the internet and the platform, they're able to reach so many more students. So I think that from the institution's perspective, they're excited that their content is now being out into the public, and we've seen a lot of progress on this front in the last few years. And I think that people understand that free content and education is here, and it's going to stay. So I think that from the perspective of the professors, they're very excited to participate in a project like this, and they think that they're going to be able to promote these courses as tools themselves. I've actually spoken to a lot of professors who plan on attaching this to their syllabus so they don't have to necessarily go back and refer to some of these lectures that are very standard that they give every year. And now they can just use that classroom time more effectively to engage in dynamic discussions and projects in the classroom and really show the value of sitting in a room with people.
It's the ultimate flipped classroom, really. I mean, it's a flipped course. That's not a bad idea at all. Yeah, how much is really sort of being driven by the institutions? I mean, do these professors, are they being given time to do this, or are they really this kind of something they're pushing forward on their own as part of their sort of out of class research efforts?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, Chris, professors often do projects outside of the university, and certainly this is something that they're doing on their own time, but there are many universities that the professors are involved with that are actually helping out with the project. So, it kind of depends on the professor and the university, but, we're really excited about the fact that so many professors from such a variety of universities, and ones who are quite renowned at their universities. I mean, the professors we're talking about are sort of at the top tier at their schools, are being allowed and actually creating such awesome content for free for the public.
Now, Gagan doesn't get tired to tell us that his hopes and plans, of course, that within maybe 3 to 5 years, they will really be able at Udemy to provide the best higher education to basically anybody interested on the internet. So when we talk about higher education, I think we have to also think of the next step maybe, and this is of course then still this question of credit, and how can I prove that I really not only learn something from this professor or during the lecture, during the course, but the thing of how to prove my knowledge. And how do you at Udemy think of implementing this on the platform, and how do you think you're going to develop this further?
Totally. Great question. So, right now we're focused entirely on just getting more great professors to teach and just spreading the word throughout the country and throughout the world about the project. So we're not really thinking too much about certifications or badging, but certainly we believe that those are important sort of aspects for the future, and we're working with the professors to figure out what the potential best solution is. But right now, we're really just focused on getting the word out.
How's this content licensed? Is it Creative Commons, or is it something a little more proprietary?
Yeah, there's no specific license that we're putting the content out on right now. We haven't really worried too much about that. We just wanted the course to be available for free so anyone can take it, and we'll sort of think about that. I mean, the professors own all the content that they put up, so it's really up to the professors to figure out what they want to do with the content in terms of licensing.
Excellent.
Sounds great, and I think is the next important step in online learning. So where should we direct people in our audience to the faculty project directly, or as I checked today, you can also find the courses now on Udemy. So what would you guys say is the best way to really get an overview of what is already there and what's going to be added over the next couple of weeks, probably?
For sure. Well, they can come directly to www.facultyproject.com, and right there we are housing all of the courses, and there'll be course descriptions and videos, and you can see everything. But then what's going to happen is it'll take you to the Udemy platform to watch the actual courses. So, and also you'll be able to visit the front page of our website and also find the faculty project. And that's how they can find it. But that's we're really excited about it, and we've had a great time getting it off the ground.
Definitely.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, and thank you too so much for taking a couple of minutes today and share the news with us. And it's really an exciting step forward.
Thank you.
Definitely. Very
Thanks
nice
so
work.
much, Kirsten and Chris.
Thanks so much.
Anytime.
Thanks. Great.
Cheers.
So we talked with the guys. What was your impression, Chris, of the project?
I think it's obviously still in its infancy. I mean, when I asked a few specific questions, and they're also sort of letting it evolve organically, but they have been able to get some really impressive names to contribute to this. And it's once again, we're talking about the same sorts of things that we've looked at before. The idea that the internet is this incredible leveler, and although not everybody has access to Stanford or USC or Northwestern or some of these other schools, they can still access a lot of knowledge. Ideally, I think you asked about this during the segment. What can we look at in terms of certification or a graduation kind of thing? Right now, I think a lot of people have realized, and I think we've seen this in WizIQ as well. People have realized that sometimes it's important just to get skills, and sometimes it's important to get knowledge for the sake of knowledge. And for people to be sharing these resources, that's a wonderful thing. These are also obviously courses that could be pulled in because they're video, asynchronous video courses. They could be pulled into other classroom settings, or online or otherwise. So again, developing an important set of educational resources. So nicely done, Udemy.
I wouldn't, of course, disagree with you, maybe just slightly here. So from the professor's side, I definitely take this argument that they themselves are not thinking about developing a credit system, and maybe even not their colleges and universities. From Udemy's side, I see it a little bit or slightly different maybe, as they are basically a provider and a for-profit company, and I accept and I know that it's sort of the hardest nut maybe to crack, if you will, talking about how to implement a mechanism of getting credit, certification in or on a platform dedicated to various kinds of learning, also informal learning, but also something that is very similar to a traditional college or university course. So I sometimes feel for not few of the companies, startups in this education space, that they like to give it a go first and don't necessarily want to think about their business model or think about a way how to make credits become a reality. How to make it possible in the first place, but always push that it is a second thought, definitely, and will come in some time. And yes, maybe they are right. And it is about getting more users, getting more known, and then it will sort of happen maybe organically, or the push will be easier. I'm always sort of between the thought, wouldn't it be better to sort this out or at least attack this question in the first place already, and sort of having it develop simultaneously with the courses themselves, or agreeing with them and saying, yeah, maybe in 2 years we are ready, or we will be ready to answer and find a system. I don't know. But,
well, we've struggled with this same question with IQ. I mean, we felt the same thing. We're developing a courses platform. We have lots of instructors who offer their own sets of courses, and we have schools that offer, that use it as an online teaching platform. So, I completely agree that this is something that needs to be really thought about. But yet, if you look at sort of the mainstream educational establishment and what are accepted forms of degrees, such as they are, it is a tough nut to crack, and I think you hit on that very well. That being said, I think somebody does need to crack it. So the idea of being bold and trying to take these steps, it's like I said, it's sort of something that we wrestled with. I know that folks at Udemy are probably doing the same thing, because how do you sort of establish this new paradigm of education and being granted a legitimate degree or certification of some sort. Not an easy thing, particularly when, from Udemy's perspective, they're pulling together courses from a lot of different institutions, and there's varying levels of institutional buy-in. I think it is if you get a Udemy university degree or certification, maybe. I think it's the time is getting there. I wrote a blog, I don't know, probably 6 months, 8 months ago about, could Dawson School online learning, would I care if my kids went there instead of went to Harvard? And of course, I'd love to have my kids go to Harvard. That'd be great. It'd be expensive for me, I'm sure, but it'd be great. But yet, if they walk away with skills and they walk away with what they need to become lifelong learners, as we all talk about, and to go get a job, well, it's hard to argue with that too. And I certainly see, within the next year to 2 years, we'll have to answer this question, because there are too many solid platforms now where people can learn a lot of things, and those things they're learning need to ultimately contribute to something that a piece of paper that they can take to a prospective employer and to be able to get a job. And all the skills in the world still to this day only add up to so much if there's not a piece of paper behind it. So I think you bring some excellent points. No disagreement there.
Let's take a moment and thank our sponsor Einstein, the social learning network. Einstein brings the power of social networking to learning and enables anyone to create an online learning community for resource sharing, collaboration, and discussion. Teachers can easily turn courses into social learning experiences. Students can form online study groups to research and learn together. Institutions can engage learners around their educational content. So sign up at einstein.com, that's EINZTEIN.com, and follow them on Twitter at Einstein Knows. We thank them for their support of Review Ed. And for our last segment, Chris made it possible that at Bott, so a fellow contributing editor at ZDNet and also an independent author, agreed to come on the show on short notice to talk about our or part of our big topic from Review at episode 12, so last week, about the Apple announcement, and specifically this iBook author tool and the end user license agreement. yeah, I think we can sum this up why it might be important in not so few cases to actually read this end-user license agreement, even though it might be tedious and long. But I think, yeah, we all tend to maybe skim over the pages or skim through it and just hit accept. But at least as the current document is, there are some bombs
Sticky
to find
wickets.
in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so for this segment, Chris and I are very happy that Ed Bott of ZDNet joined us on short notice. So 2 ZDNet fellows on the show today. And Ed, I watched your talk with Leo Laporte last Sunday on Twit, and of course Chris and I for Review Ed. We were of course also talking about the Apple announcement and the author tool and the user license agreement, of course. And I found that you had a very profound and also differentiated view on that. And on Review Ed, we have mostly an educational audience. But as you know, many educators also create content and e-books or textbooks. And I would like to have your take on the author tool. Is it a real threat, or is it a potential risk, or is it even realistic from Apple's side to sort of execute on everything that is written in this EULA? What do you think?
Well, that's a pretty broad question, but it's appropriate given the circumstances that Apple has created for ebook authors around the world. They're calling this iBook's author, and deliberately not referring to it as a generic ebook authoring tool. So they're clearly targeting the iBook store with this. And they're also positioning it, at least from a marketing point of view, as a textbook creation tool. So when you look at it to start with, you say, sure, a lot of the new interactive features they're talking about are particularly relevant in textbooks, and they're great for learning. But I see this as being a much broader creation tool than that. I mean, the kind of books that I write, for example, are about using computer software, and they would really benefit from some interactive things like this. Right now you have basically just the choice of plain old screenshots or embedded videos. So now what Apple has done with the introduction of this is really there's 2 separate issues to discuss. Number one is they've created an authoring tool that's based on an open standard, but it only creates output in a closed standard that is an extension of that original open standard. So they've created this great authoring tool, but they're not allowing people to use it to target platforms other than their own. And that strikes me as being sort of a fundamentally anti-competitive thing. But the second issue, which is kind of related to that and is really more alarming in my view, is the end-user license agreement, which is the first one I've ever seen, at least in a consumer product, that tries to dictate what the customer can do with the output of the tool. There's all sorts of end-user license agreements that tell you where and how you can buy and use the software. So, for example, if you go to the Apple Mac App Store or to the iTunes App Store, you'll see that there's separate sets of conditions depending on whether you're using a program for personal use or for commercial use. Apple has separate conditions there. Microsoft has separate conditions for different versions of its Office programs that it sells. Some are free and ad-supported. Some are low cost, but only for personal and non-commercial use. Others allow commercial use. But this one's really different because it says it doesn't matter whether you're using it for personal or commercial purposes. If you want to sell the output from this ever, you have to do it through our store. You can give it away anywhere, but you have to do it through our store. And that to me is just, I just went, wow, when I saw this.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, isn't it somewhat surprising that, however, and I mean in the press, of course, more maybe on the technology side, there have been some serious discussions around that. On the other hand, we now have some first numbers saying that 90,000 of those author tools or downloads have been affected so far, so over the first couple of days. And what do you guys think? Is it that people may not be as informed, or do they simply don't care and accept almost anything that comes from Apple's site?
Chris, I want to hear your take on this first.
I think these are the Mac faithful. There's a lot of Mac users out there and a whole lot of Mac users in education. And if you hand someone a great tool that produces great ebooks on an iPad, well, gee, that seems like a fine idea. And I think that it's the people who spend their time really creating more serious, either open content or content for profit that are going to look at other distribution models. They're the ones who are raising the red flags. As Ed pointed out, he writes books for a living, and we do a lot of writing as well. And so from our perspective, to be limited to a single platform makes no sense. And as people who spend, particularly you and me, Kirsten, who spend a lot of time thinking about open educational resources, this is kind of the opposite of open, and that's really troublesome. And particularly, and I think you pointed out, and Audrey Waters also pointed it out, when they're also using this platform for textbooks, whether they're created by teachers or by major publishers. Those 350,000 textbooks that have been downloaded, they're from the big three textbook publishers.
Absolutely,
which is, again,
90% of the market, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It just runs counter to this whole idea of being empowered to create your own content. Mm. So, these are the Mac faithful, and it's a new toy from Apple, and I say that with a grain of salt because I love my Macs. There's 3 of them sitting in my house. 4. I take that back. And 2 of them are mine. I'm connected to the internet through my Airport Extreme, and I love the tools. But this is one thing that, boy, it gets me. But I don't think it wouldn't get me if I wasn't the kind of person to read the EULAs or to read Ed Bott's columns, or to be really thinking about this from an open educational standpoint, not just, yay, a new thing for textbooks. It's only $15 a year. Wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. I also ask myself the question, does Apple really want to push, or that also independent authors, may it be authors in general or of educational content, can really benefit from this? It seems to be, as you pointed out, Chris, tailored for the big publishers, and sort of everything else or everybody else, we take you too, but we don't really want to give you a platform. And of course, being an independent author or creating open educational content, I want, of course, that my content or my books are on as many platforms as possible, and not in one silo in an Apple closed environment. So this can't naturally be in my interest. But yeah, Ed, what do you think?
So here's a scenario that I've been thinking of that would be highly likely under the current terms of the end-user license agreement. You know, the big textbook publishers are perfectly happy to have their stuff distributed through the Apple store, the iBook store, and let Apple function as their agent for selling it. But now imagine that I'm an entrepreneur and I've got an idea for a really cool proprietary training manual that I can do that will work with all sorts of industries. You know, for let's say maybe for the insurance industry, I've put together this book with all sorts of interactive stuff in it that teaches people in these insurance agencies and claims processing outfits and doctors' offices how to deal with the insurance software that they're using it. I could potentially sell thousands of copies of that. Now, if I give those away, Apple has no problem with it. I can go around to all those offices and I can put those on people's iPads and they can use that. And Apple doesn't see anything wrong with me doing that. They don't see any security risks from me doing that. They're perfectly willing to let me do that. But as soon as I start charging money for it, then they say, we want 30% of the output here. And that's the scenario that just looks to me, and I say, no, that just seems to be wrong. You know, if they want to say that there's personal use and there's commercial use, fine. But the idea that they're giving you this tool and then not allowing you to make money with it in whatever way happens to work best for you is just crazy. And the nightmare scenario there is, so let's say that I've put together that training manual for the insurance industry, and I submitted it to Apple, and they turned it down. Because for whatever reason, they either demand changes in it or they don't think it's of high enough quality. I've got maybe hundreds or thousands of people who are willing to pay me for that book and read it on their iPad, but Apple will not sell it for me, and I cannot legally sell it to them directly. So my only choice is to go and recreate that book without the interactive elements in a standard EPUB format and then figure out how to sell it. Potentially my livelihood has been affected because somebody at Apple didn't think my book was good enough to pass their judgment.
Absolutely, and who has the time of starting all over again? I mean, if you do it once and you put in or you work on it thoroughly with interactive graphics and elements, and then I think you have to start from plain text again. It's not possible if you want to make a living, I think.
Even if you start from if you say, okay, I'm going to do all of my authoring, all of the text formatting and the static graphics and such, I'm going to do in either Microsoft Word or Apple's Pages program, either one of which can generate a pretty decent starting point for an EPUB file. There's still a substantial amount of work that then goes into creating the interactive elements there. And so the idea that number one, 30% of your selling price has to be given to Apple, no matter whether you have a perfectly good channel or not, seems wrong. And the other is that they can reject it and prevent you from selling your product to people who want to buy it. Those are the issues that are kind of disturbing. I think to go back to the beginning, probably when you get right down to it, this is perhaps a license agreement that is not so much onerous or evil as it is just badly written, and a lot of the proof of that will be how Apple responds to the criticism they've taken so far about this. Are they going to rewrite the license agreement or not? I think there's 2 points of view out there in the blogosphere. John Gruber and I, for example, have had a very civilized, very spirited, and very complete debate on the issues, and anybody who wants to, sort of get up to speed on things can read what I've written and what he has written and sort of make up their own minds. I think ultimately he comes to it, Gruber and other people who are, who believe that Apple is essentially has pure motives here, have an optimistic view of the company and what it's going to do. I come to the same subject with a pessimistic view. I think that Apple is doing this for competitive reasons, and they're going to push and squeeze on this thing. And although the outcome might not be as dire as it could be, that really a lot of their goal is to close and funnel the market, which lets them sell more iPads, and it also lets them create a bigger advantage for the iBooks bookstore, which, let's face it, hasn't been successful up to this point. So ultimately, are you an optimist or are you a pessimist about Apple? That kind of defines where you're going to come down on this issue.
Christopher, your closing statement, do you think it's likely that we will see adjustments in the end-user license agreement, or do you think Apple will sort of follow their way of doing things without rewriting, rephrasing some of the things written in these, I think, 49 pages?
Yeah, I wish that it was going to be rewritten, and I wish that they would say, oh, you know what, that's not really what we meant, or, pay us $1 a book and you can license it, something interesting. That's not going to happen, I don't think. I think they have, they've sold, as of even, I think it was last weekend, the first weekend they sold 350,000 textbooks at $15 a piece. Even if they're only taking a fraction of that, they just made a whole boatload of money in the first weekend this was launched, with 9 books available, or 7 books available, I think, and 3 publishers. Why would they? This is, I'm not sure how much this is kind of a post-Steve Jobs ultimate realization of this vision, and how much is just, the world's most valuable company becoming more valuable. But unfortunately, I don't see this changing, and I don't think they have a good motivation to change it, unfortunately. So the question is, does the education industry kind of roll over and go along with it because it's a compelling tool, or do we demand different? And Jason Perlow and I are working on a couple blogs. We'll post them on EduQuest. They're coming up Monday, talking about sort of the opposite of this and what we envision needing to happen. And I think it's very different from the vision that Apple is pushing forward.
So thank you both so much for joining me for this segment, and I guess as you both were saying, we have to wait and see what is going to happen over the next couple of weeks. But I guess I tend to agree with you, and I am sort of more on within the pessimistic group of people not expecting too much from Apple's side. And as you said, Christopher, 350,000 e-textbooks have been downloaded. Only 8 are available so far on iBooks 2. So it seems that people maybe don't care as much, or they simply accept what's coming from Apple's side and maybe moan or criticize a little bit, and in the end they somewhat swallow it and continue.
It's the classic Apple. It's the classic Apple reality distortion field. I mean, this is something that they're very good at, and their products in general are amazing, and they work very, very well. But they also have sort of their own version of reality, and and that seems to work for them. Obviously, was it the $400 billion market cap? And
yeah.
Phenomenal
numbers, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's hard to argue with that from a business perspective, and so anyway.
We'll see how it all shakes up.
Yes,
Kirsten and Christopher, thank you very much for having me on today. I really appreciate the opportunity.
You bet.
Thank
It's a pleasure.
you so
Thanks
much,
very
Ed. Thank you very much.
Definitely. I was, I read Ed's article, as soon as it came out, just shortly after the Apple announcement, and it is one of the things that when you do stop and think about it for me, you think, well, wait a minute, that really 100% locks me into the Apple's platform, and well, that's everything that Apple has produced to date, whether it be hardware or software, has largely focused on content creation, and I use Apple products all the time to create content, and it tends to work very, very well for that. Now all of a sudden we have this tool that they're providing for us that says you can create Apple content, but it's only going to be for Apple, and we will not only take profits from that if you choose to profit, but we're going to give to our platform, and if we don't accept the content you're creating, well then you're going to go need to recreate this some other way and deal with it some other way. It's I think that unwary authors could end up putting a whole heck of a lot of work into a project, something that's beautiful and wonderful as iBook's author can create, and then find it totally unusable, and that's troubling. So I think Ed makes some great points about this, and it's just not to say that it's a bad tool necessarily, but with the EULA as it's one heck of a caveat.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. What we have seen over the past couple of days, already 90,000 of these iBook author tools have been downloaded. So success on the one hand. On the other hand, us two, together with Ed, we speculated a little bit, and yes, we have to say it is pure speculation from our side about the intentions Apple might have had, or their lawyers. I guess they have a whole bunch of legal advisors who worked, and maybe this opinion is not to reject that they put every single situation, everything they could thought of in this end-user license agreement without the intention of maybe executing, so suing somebody. Ed points to John Gruber at Daring Fireball, of course, a huge, normally a huge blog, very good reputation, as well as a blogger or maybe even a journalist or columnist, usually more on the pro-Apple side, always thinking Apple has good intentions, and it's just a bad it's badly written, basically. Right. Us three being a little bit more pessimistic or maybe realistic. Apple is a for-profit company where they build great products. All of us are also using their products on a frequent or daily basis. So we are not against this, but we see this a little bit more realistically maybe, and we asked ourselves, so why does a company, or why should a company like Apple make such a mistake, if you will, of putting such a EULA together and not having the intention to do so.
Yeah, it's awfully draconian though, and I want to believe that Apple's good at heart, just a very successful company. I use their products way too much, and I like their products way too much to write them off just yet. But this one kind of stinks. So we'll see.
So we should be rooting and hoping for a change in the EULA, new EULA, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and then Apple could set the record straight.
We'll see.
So
I'm not holding my breath, but we will see.
Yeah, we will see. So that was all for this week, and as always, it was a great pleasure hosting the show together with you, Chris, and everybody who wants to read more articles and more of the stuff Chris puts out there should go on ZDNet. Or is it?
Education.zdnet.com.
Exactly.
Takes them to my site, and occasionally on the Google page and stuff between the lines and wherever else they let me write. So you'll find me on there.
Also on the WizIQ blog sometimes?
Absolutely, yeah. And we're, in fact, I should put out a call. If there are educators who would like to contribute to the WizIQ blog, we're actually expanding it to be kind of a multi-user style blog. That's, our goal is to, obviously, it's about WizIQ and about e-learning, but really we'd rather talk about more general ed tech issues and have it become a bit more of a community destination. And I'm sure you'll find some spots in there where you can click and try out WizIQ, but we'd like to have it become a resource. So anyone reading, watching, listening, do feel free to contact me, Chris at WizIQ.com, if you're interested in contributing to that. We would be very interested in that. So thank you.
Awesome. So thanks for doing another show with me, even with some technical challenges this week and some hiccups, but I enjoyed it nevertheless, and I am already looking forward to next week.
Always a pleasure.